We welcome Chrissy Strimple into the Eye of the Hurricane, the TU softball coach, and the season is underway. You know, it's hard to believe that you've already played, some 14 games scheduled for 15, but that's what happens in the early season, doesn't it? You go to these tournaments, you get 5 games a weekend, don't you?
Absolutely. Most weekends you're going to get 4 or 5, sometimes weather dependent. But it's good to get out on dirt, good to compete against some other teams. You really use these weekends to kind of develop who you think is going to be your starting lineup. Plus, we have 3 more weeks of that until we get into conference.
Absolutely, and the Hurricane will have a tournament hosting this weekend. We'll talk about that in a moment. But, Coach, you start things off with a couple of tournaments and 8-1 in your first couple of tournaments, one of which, of course, you lost 1 game to weather, but you played 9 games and you're 8-1. What were you doing well then?
Honestly, we've said this from the beginning that our pitching staff was always going to be the strength of our team. But defensively, we really were playing pretty sharp. Making some great plays, getting our pitchers out of jams if they ever gotten one. But really our pitchers were just doing a great job and letting our offense get going. We had several girls that were just driving the ball into some gaps and coming up with some clutch hits. So all around, we were playing pretty good softball those first 2 weekends.
And that's unusual because usually you almost expect to kick the ball around a little bit defensively since you don't get on the field as much as you'd like to early on, right?
Oh, absolutely. You just never know what kind of weather you're going to get. But we were pretty fortunate in the preseason to have some outside practices. I think over 50% of our practices were outside. And so I felt good where we were defensively and how we were going to move around on the dirt. It's just when you get up to go see other pitchers and how your hitters are going to do. And those first 2 weekends, I think the first weekend we kind of set the bar high, driving some balls out of the ballpark and really had some extra base hits that our team needed.
Yeah, early on, I think Shanice Dells hit some home runs. You had some other players that got it out of the ballpark, and so that was really positive, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, up and down the lineup, you had Alexis Perry, who's a senior, who really started off strong. You had Tasia Ellison kind of come out and, earn a spot in the top of the lineup. But, up and down the lineup, we were just having great at-bats those first weekends.
Okay, so now you really run into I don't want to say brick wall, but you run into a really, really talent-laden tournament this past weekend in Waco. And you kind of knew that going in, that you're going to face some good teams.
Oh, absolutely. You had a couple teams that have World Series experience going into Waco, and then you also knew that you were going to go up against some really tough pitchers. I think 2 of the 5 pitchers that we faced were All-American type pitchers, and then also with the other 2 games that you had, just teams that had senior laden pitchers and pitchers who were a little bit older. It's funny how this game can humble you a little bit from weekend to weekend, and that's kind of how softball, baseball goes. But no doubt, facing the good pitchers, it's not the way you wanted to walk away from the weekend, but I expect our girls to bounce back.
Well, Minnesota is one of the teams you played, and they got you pretty good in that first game, but you bounced back the next time you played them, had a chance to win, and then they got you with a 3-run homer, right?
Exactly. Sam Pokop came back, gave our girls a chance to win. We scored early in that game, I believe in the 2nd inning. Gave our team a chance to win that game, and 1 pitch made the difference, for that team. I think she gave up, 2 hits that entire game, and one of them just ended up being kind of the home run that crushed us a little bit. But she pitched outstanding, and that's what we needed, and that's what we knew we were going to have from our team this year, was going to be strong pitching in the circle.
And another one of your losses in Waco was, I think it was a 1-0 loss where you gave up only 1 hit. So, I mean, that sort of stuff happens. Games sometimes come down to key plays and errors and that sort of thing. But certainly your pitching, other than maybe that first Minnesota game, was pretty good, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Cassidy Scott had a great game. Against Baylor. You had Sam Pokop that came back and gave us a great game against Minnesota. And then honestly, Shanice really had a great game that final game. I don't think a ball gets out of the infield and we give up, 2 runs. Something that's kind of an abnormality for us. We were playing great defense, making a lot of plays, getting us out of some jams, and then just that second game on Sunday, I think it was just kind of atypical of what our defense has been doing.
Yeah, and again, you lose 5 games, but all of them except for that first one were very close, and 2-1, 3-1, 1-0 type games. But the concern, I guess, coming out of that is, against great pitching, you just didn't hit the ball very well, did you?
Exactly, and I think I think we kind of played in to the pitchers that weekend and let them dictate to us as far as hitters went. We have some young kids in the lineup that are getting some much needed experience, and I think that's what they take away from this weekend is how good pitching is just going to come straight at you. If you look at what Alexis Perry did this weekend, here's a senior that really came away with a pretty good weekend, squaring the ball up. I think she's the one that kind of had our most consistent weekend throughout there. And then also Michaela Witten, not having a lot to show from it, really had good at bats, the whole weekend. And so those are two of our seniors who have been through it for the last 4 years and know what to expect from some of those tough teams. And so our younger kids that you're going to see in our lineup really got some much needed experience.
Okay, so who's playing really well for you defensively? I mean, who's kind of surprised you and kind of slotted into to a position defensively?
Well, honestly, we have Michaela Witten out in center field, and she's done a nice job tracking some balls down. You have Alexis Berry, who's been a staple in our lineup so far this season, and she's really played nice. But our middle infielders, Abby Jones is a freshman, and she just covers a lot of ground, at shortstop, and she's really played nice. In fact, our middle infield turned 2 double plays to get us out of some jams in that Minnesota game when Sam gave up some weak contact. Aubrey Sini started off the first 2 weekends swinging it really well and has played pretty consistent for us over there at first base. And so catching, we've kind of been bouncing a couple kids back behind the plate between Grace Garman, who's a junior, and then Selena Shaw, who's a sophomore for us. But we're still trying to find. There's still some good competition out there in some of the positions. So we're still trying to find what that 9 is going to look like rolling into conference.
Absolutely. And now this weekend, it's the Hurricane Classic, as you will host, and you kind of tandem this with Oklahoma State, right? But you're going to host a number of teams this weekend. And we urge you to come on out to our softball stadium for the first home games of the year, and that's always exciting. It's nice to have a home tournament early. You're always battling the weather, but the weather's going to be great this weekend. So tell us about the teams.
Weather's going to be awesome this weekend. I think our girls are excited to see some 60, 70-degree weather. But you have some good competition coming in. You've got Oregon coming in, who I believe is 14-0 right now. So just a great team, great softball team that's going to come into Tulsa for our girls to play. And then you have Drake that we play on Friday, who, they've really had some great seasons over the past, 5 years with some tough pitching. And I look for them to be the same this weekend. And then you have UIC out of Chicago. And then we'll finish up on Sunday with Louisville, another good team.
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. Go on the website, look up the times and all that, but it all starts Friday with 2 games on Friday, right, for your team?
Yes, play at 2:30 on Friday, and the second game will be right after that, about 5 o'clock.
All right, Coach, good luck, and we'll see you out at the ballpark.
Thank you very much.
Chrissy Strimple joining us here in the Eye of the Hurricane.